Recording is on.
Okay, Wema, you're done with your installation. So can you see what we have here? Can you also see this screen on your end? Oh, I already removed some things from here. Wema, can you see what we have here? I want to be sure we are on the same page. Um oh, Elliot says someone has just joined in. So whoever is just joining in, we are installing React right now. Please, I want to be sure that you have what I have here also before I start. Okay. I see you have the same page I have. All right. So, like I said earlier, we are going to be creating something just like this. So let's see how we can edit our own so it looks just like that. So we are going to be removing this div that has these two images. we are going to be removing it. Now, afterwards, we are going to be editing the background. Or let's see, let me see what background we have. Okay, we have this brown, but let's just leave it as this brown background. So now let's let's remove React and and yes, and now we have this. Okay, so next thing we let's have this counter box. So we are going to create the counter box next. So we are just going to put that over here. We are going to create a div. All right. We are going to create a div, and then we are going to call it class name of. We are going to call it class name of counts. All right. Then in our CSS, we are going to have a star for count here. All right. So same thing we had there. We'll just use the same style so that we don't waste so much time. We use the same style we have over here for a counter display. We'll just paste it over here. If you followed from the class of yesterday, you realize that we add this. So let's use the same class called what? Counter display. All right. So if we have that, we should have something like this. So then inside this div, we'll then have what? Our what? Count variable. All right. We now have our count variable. So now, so, so now we are going to next we are going to have our button. All right, the click me button. So a click me button is the one that is going to be incrementing these guys. All right, so instead of this button incrementing it, it's going to be click me button. So what we are now going to have is we are going to also use what? Our click me button from here. So let's look for where that button is. um okay, this is the button over here. So let's get the star from our yesterday's code. Okay, so this is the button over here. So the button is quite some style, so let's just copy that so that we can have some same thing over here. So you realize that after all, React is not all that different from HTML and CSS. It's just there are just little intricacies to how things are on React. Okay, the fact that you can write a JavaScript inside. The main thing is how your JavaScripts are written. They are written the same way, but instead of now creating a different file and all of those things, you can just write a JavaScript inside, and some things are done out of the box for you. So I'm going to now name this click button. So I'm going to change this one to what's class name click button. So and see now we're using class name, not just class. That's also something you should note. So you see the count is this is now bigger. So you now change this one to what? Click me. All right. And you have this click me. So now next thing is that next thing is that we are now going to ensure. So now we don't even need to do much thing because already the button was already updating this guy. So and you see that still works the way it should. So let's just remove all of this other text. We don't need them anymore. So just scroll down, remove this p tag here, and remove this one down here. Okay, and here we have our click counter that looks almost just like this. All right, so now I want to really show you how the JavaScript works and how we can also still add more things to the JavaScript. So now, first of all, we have the use states. Remember, I said when you need things to change, when you need things, the value of things to change, you basically use your what your use state. Okay, and here we just selected the count, and we specify the count and the function the function that updates the count. So when we wanted to update count, see what we did. We basically called wrote the function, and another way you can do it, you can write the function and say function increment count. Increment count just means you want to add more count, right? And you write this. And another way you can write this function is by saying what const increment count is equals to function, and you use your what arrow function. This is what we call what arrow function. This is another method of writing functions. Both are both are same. This is you writing a function, and this is you writing a function. Okay, so yeah, so if you want to increment function, all you just need to do is um you write the same set count and say count plus one. All right, and you just basically what call this function here. All right, and when you click on this, you see that same thing still happens. All right, same thing still happens. So who can tell me what I would do if I wanted to decrement the count? If I wanted to decrement the count, who can tell me what I would do? Anyone? I need a fastest finger. Who can tell me what I would do? Anyone? Exactly. Thanks, Jamila. Welcome, Jamila. Count minus one. So basically, what you do is you create another function, say decrement count, and you write your function with your arrow key. If you wanted to use the old way, you say function and you write decrement count like this, like same one we did yesterday, and we write it this way. All right, this is the old way, but this is the new way of writing functions. And basically, they'll set count and say count and say what count minus one. All right. So now this function is not attached to any button, but let's now say what, let's say remove counts or minus count or something like that. You see. So you see this, it reduces. But do you notice something? It's when it goes to zero, it's still minusing. So who can tell me what we can do to make it stop minusing when we get to zero? This is JavaScript stuff now. Anyone who can tell me what we can do if we want the count to stop decrementing when it gets to zero? Anyone? I'm expecting our responses. So okay, Eliud, you tried. You said set count to zero. Well, that's a way to do it, but count is greater than or equal to zero. Okay, Jamila, you're also close, right? But this is how you do it, guys. This is how you do it. Now, you know, when you are decrementing, you are minusing, right? That means you are working with this function, right? You want to make sure that you now use your what? Conditionals, your if, your else, your if else and all of those things. So what you do is you say what? If your counts is equals to zero, right? Return. Return would make what will make sure that you stop the execution. This word does what? Stops the execution of the function. It stops the function from running. That's what return does. Now, however, this will still keep running because we are not zero, but we are less than zero already. Okay, so it will still keep on going. So if you want to actually stop it when it is also less than zero, what do? You say what? If it is less than or equals to zero, less than or equals to zero, this is how to write it. This means you are saying, is it less than or equals to zero? Then you want to what? Stop the execution. So if you do this, see what? Minus count does not do anything. How do you show a message to the user? I've not told you guys that, but how you show your message to the user is in the alert. So let's say you want to, before, just because you want them to know that okay, something is happening when they click on the button, you see that, oh, alert, you have reached the minimum limit, reload and try again, or something like that, right? So what happens now when you do this? It says you have reached the minimum limit, reload and try again. So when we reload, we are now on zero. So even if you try to minus, it doesn't minus until you now increment, right? And you decrement. All right. So who has a question for me? I've been asking you questions. So ask me questions about React, about things you really want to know about React, about things you don't know how you possibly have done on React, and let's tackle it together, guys. Jamila, Heli, Wema, over to you. Ask questions before we call it a wrap on React. Anyone? So if they are not, okay, how would you render list of items? That is a very, 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 very great question. That is a very, very great question. So I'm going to be showing you how you can do that in a minute. 1 minute, guys. So Jamila asked how we would render a list of items. Okay. So when you have list of items, you have something like this. So first of all, you want to have the list of items somewhere. Okay. So let's say we have lists of fruits. Let's say we have apple, orange, and melon. So, Jamila, you agree with me that this is a list of items, right? Because they are in an array, right? Good, good. I like that you are following. Good. Now, if you want to display this, all you need to do is, let's say, you want to show it just under here, for example. Now, what we'll do is you would let me just put it somewhere. Okay, let me put it under. Let me write a div here. Let me see how this is going to show. Okay, it's going to show under here. Okay, that's fine. Let's just show it under here. So now what you want to do is you have a bracket here. You say, well, list of fruits dot map. Remember I told you about dot map earlier, right? I shared that somewhere here. Yeah, rendering list, right? Dot map. So you say dot map, then you do this first bracket, then second bracket is going to be what? Each value, right? So each value will be what? The fruit, or you can say single fruit. Then the second value is going to be what? The key. Then you now use the arrow function to render what? The item. Now you can now say maybe your div or your p tag. You can now say, oh, your p tag. Then inside your p tag, you now put the variable what of that particular fruit. Okay. Then, sorry, this is going to be your index rather, not key. Then your p tag, every element you render should have a key. So you now use the key of what? The index. Okay. So the index is actually going to be this. So let's see. You can see the list now. Jamila, did you get that? Perfect, perfect, perfect. There are still other ways you can do things, because there are some lists that will not be as simple as this, but this is a very simple way for you to at least understand it. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions, guys? For me, I've shown you how React works and how you can start building something with React, coupled with the knowledge you have on HTML and CSS and JavaScript. You are good to go to start creating something. So I need us to ask questions so that we can, have something to work on. Okay. Anything that could be confusing to you before we call it a wrap? Okay. So if there are no questions, um, that would mean that we are clear on things. Okay. Why should you not use array indices as keys? Good. Good question, Jamila. So that was really you. If you notice over here, you notice they say do not use array index in keys. So on the grand scheme of things, sometimes you could use it and you can pass with that, but you really shouldn't use it, especially in dynamic arrays, because of the values. For example, um this, for example, is just a static list that would really not change, right? But sometimes you could be handling some list that is generated from that is dynamic, right? That is generated from the API and that is dynamic. In that scenario, you cannot afford to use just index. Okay, you have to be able to map it to something. Maybe you have to do something like index and maybe the fruit name or something like that. Something that makes it unique, because these indexes are what, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and also so on and so forth. Now, if for example you pop or you remove this particular one from the array and it remains these two, if the UI does not recognize that it has changed and is still picking the previous list, it can the reference, the index reference can be misplaced. Okay, but when it changes, when it sees that that key has changed, because you are not only using index, you're not using index and fruit name, and you cannot see anything with that key, it updates immediately. Okay, but when you are still using index, it will always see index one, because index one is melon. The previous one was maybe orange, but now orange is out of this, but it doesn't know that it should update. Okay, so it's always good to use keys. Are always meant for what? Unique identification. Okay, unique identification. So that's why you should not actually use indices or index when actually rendering your lists. Okay, did you get that, Jamila? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. More questions, more questions, more questions, guys. If you are also having troubles with the app, let me know also. Great question. Great question, Jamila. I like that you are answering questions back to back. That is very, very impressive. That's very impressive. Now, optimizing performance, you know, is a question that just it's not just one thing that it's not just one thing that you will do to optimize performance. First of all, starting from the basic things, starting from structuring your applications, starting from the way you write your codes. All of these things are things you will do step by step to make sure that your application is optimized the best way possible. Okay, if you have your functions, your files, your folders, and they are not even structured well, you could get some performance overhead. All right, so optimizing performance is done on the go. Okay, is done on the go. First of all, ensuring that what your elements that are used, like for example your images, they are not heavy. It's also another way to optimize performance. Okay, so but the main thing is that ensuring that when you start out, you're starting out with maintenance in mind, you're starting out with scalability in mind. Your files, your folders are well structured. It helps you optimize your application, the performance of your React application so well. Okay, did you get that? So that's basically how you can optimize your application. So there are also other things, just like I said, even your states, how you use your states also is something. Oh, your network was bad. Okay. So what I was saying is that, can you hear me better now? Okay. I want to know if you can hear me before I proceed so that I don't.
I can hear you now.
Hi Jamila, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry.
I can't. Is it just me? I can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, hold on 1 second.
Mr. Similolua, can you hear me? Jamila is speaking. I can hear her here. Hi, Mr. Similolua.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear
Yes, I
you,
can
Mr.
hear you.
Simi.
Oh,
Can you?
I can hear you now.
Okay, Jamila, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, it was my network that kind of broke off when you were explaining. Could you?
All right, sure. All right, sure. That's fine. So I was saying that when trying to optimize performance, it's not just one thing or two things or a few lists that you need to check from your list, but it's something that it's hands on, something that is hands on. Okay, how do I mean by hands on? What I mean is that, first off, even from writing your application, your folder structure, creating your files, ensure that you are creating things in a scalable approach, in a scalable manner. Okay, ensure you are reusing things. Now there was something about reusability that I didn't mention. Now this question has prompted me to to answer that. Okay, but I will show that after answering your question. Now when you reuse things, it helps you not to what write one thing 10 times. Okay, it helps you not to write one thing 20 times. When you start writing say one thing multiple times, then you are not optimizing your application so well. Okay, reuse things. Okay, and also use all these react hooks so well. Use them strategically. All right. And another thing is that you should ensure that you, lastly, just like I said earlier, split your codes well. Okay, ensure that you split your codes well, and then your image and your assets, make sure they are optimized. Don't use heavy images on your react application. If not, it will be slow. Okay, so now I was talking about reusability of codes. Now if you want to reuse a code, let's try to reuse this button. Let's try to reuse this button. So let's say function um count button, right? Then- excuse me. Then you do this, right? You write this button. So now this is our account button, right? Now doing this will help us what eradicate writing this button two times. But you notice that what, for this button we have what, two different texts. For example, if I render this button now, sorry, 1 minute guys. All right guys, so as I was saying earlier, we have our account button here. So if we display it over here, see what we're going to have. Our React app is not open. Let me close this guy. Um, okay, let's move this on click because we don't have this on click yet. Good. You see the button now shows. What are keys in React? Okay, Steve, I'm going to answer your question shortly. Going to answer your question shortly. Now, you see the button shows up. Now, if we do this 4 times, see the button shows up 4 times without having to write this whole thing over and over and over again. That is you trying to optimize performance. Now, how do we actually make it work? How do we make it work? First of all, we see that this our button can have different text, right? So we need to now do what? The prompts I talked about before, we need to now pass it. So first of all, we are expecting what? Text. So we pass the text as this guy. Okay. Then this text will now be so see this. You notice something. Come, let me see. Uh so this is the thing about JavaScript. Sometimes when you use the JavaScript, you may not you may not get some errors on runtime. You have to start debugging. So let's see where this is showing, if it is showing on our console. Okay. This is going to be our props now. Then we then say what? Props.text. Yeah, good. So you see, it's now click me, right? So everything you're going to pass in is going to be coming as props. Then you can now say props the what? The text. So you can see that our text is now what? Click me. Now, second thing is going to what? Function. Function. So a function props is going to be what? This guy. So we then pass what? Inside here on click will then be props dot function. So now let's check. You can see it now works now. So now if we duplicate this, all we just need to do is what? Update the text. Update the text, and it basically just will create a new one, and you pass the function into it. Jamila, you asked this question. Do you get it now? Do you get it now? So that's how it works. All right, guys. So Jamila, I'm glad you understand this now. So Steve, over to your question before we call it a wrap. Now, keys, once again, they are used they are used um when you map. When we used keys earlier, we were working with arrays. Okay, we were working with arrays, and then we mapped through the arrays just to render the items of the array. Now, when you use your key, you are trying to tell the array that for this particular element you are rendering on your UI, this is the identifier for this item. Okay, it helps us track that item. So see it as a tracker for that item you are rendering. All right, Steve, did you get that? All right, I'm glad you understand. So really, I'm really glad we have been able to do this. Wema, I want to believe that you follow through and you are able to also replicate these things I've done. Okay, I'll also be sharing you guys the click counter from yesterday. I may not be able to share the real project because it's a bit heavy, but I'll be sharing you the click counter so that you can get the HTML and the CSS. Oh, Rema, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well done. Well done. So we can get those codes and follow with this video from today, and we should be able to get things. So that will be it from today. Thank you for following till this part of the class, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys will do with React.
Thank you very much, Mr. Similolua, for that awesome lecture. Thank you so much. Mr. Similolua, are we going to have a final project? Mr.
Yes, yes, you have a final project tomorrow.
Okay, so guys, I'm just trying to prepare your mind towards it. We'll have a
I'm
final
hoping that
project.
more people will be here so that we can do the final project together.
Yeah, we will send reminders soon, and we will make sure that more people join in, so that because we will be passing so many information tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final day, and I look forward to seeing every one of you again tomorrow. If you have your questions about OneDev, about the course, about the upcoming diploma boot camp, tomorrow is the time to ask. We would also be having special guests tomorrow to come. So please, you want to be here tomorrow because we'll be having special guests here tomorrow also. So please make sure you're here. Thank you guys for joining in. I would, as usual, share the what's it called, the recording in the community so that you can actually follow through again if you need it, and also the slides that Mr. Similoluwa used today. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Jamila. Thank you, David. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Wema. Thank you, everyone. Do have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye, everyone. Can I share it then? It always depends on my network. Like it's not me. It depends on my network. And this one will be two parts because at a point my internet went off, right? So it will be a two-part thing. So I will let you know if the internet allows me to upload this night. All right, Elliot. Do you get that? Okay, thank you very much. Do have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye everyone.